All right, we're going to do exercise 4 in the intermediate section of chapter 2 in Zach's Programming with Visual Basic 2019-2022. Let's get to it. So we need to create an application that uses or calculates and displays the area of a rectangle in both square feet and square yards. The user will provide the rectangle's length and width, both measured in feet. All right, prepare a planning chart for the application. So if we go back to, let's see, F2.1, these are the steps that we take when planning an application. And I took these, I copied them, and I just dumped them into a Word document here. All right. So let's identify the application's purpose. I'm going to take that. I'm actually going to copy it from the exercise here. So the purpose is calculate and display the area in feet and yards. So I'm going to copy that, paste it in here. Okay, calculate and display the area of a rectangle in feet and yards. That is the purpose of my application. All right. Identify the items the user must provide. Well, again, if we go back here, the user will provide, let's see, the rectangle's length and width, both measured in feet. So again, copy that, paste this. All right, that is what the user is providing. Identify the items the application must provide. So what's the application telling us? Well, it's going to say the area of the rectangle in feet and yards. Square feet and square yards. Okay. And determine how the application will provide their respective items. Well, there will be a calculate button, calculates the output. All right, good enough. And then draw a sketch of the user interface. So there's a lot of different ways you can sketch out the user interface. You can use pen and paper. That's perfectly fine. And if you needed to then send that to someone, like if you're going to add it to your assignment, you can take a picture of it with your phone and add it to your assignment. I'm going to use Balsamic only because it's easier for me to just show you what we're doing instead of just drawing on a piece of paper. So Balsamic definitely isn't the easiest way to go about creating a wireframe, but it is a professional tool. You can get started for free. So if you wanted to use Balsamic, it's at balsamiq.cloud. You can make your own mock-up for this. So the first thing we need is a container, and I don't want a browser window. I just need a window. Okay, good enough. And this window name is going to be calculate the area of a rectangle, LE. There we go. Okay. Now, I need some different text pieces here. I need a label. All right, and this label is going to be width. And I'm going to need another label. Where did that go? Label. This is going to say height. And let's line these up. I don't know where they're lining up. There we go. Cool. Copy, paste. This one is going to be area feet. Copy, paste. Area, and it's actually square. We forgot square in there. All right, so the area in square feet and the area in square yards. This is going to have an output. So example, square feet, or something like output square feet. All right, and then we need some input boxes for width and height. So here's a text input. We'll drag that here. And that's going to be empty. All right, we know that's going to be the width. This one's for height. I'm going to get these lined up here. I'm going to grab these things. Let's see. Can I align Align left. Okay, great. Make it look like this. We're getting there. We just need some buttons. I need a calculate button, and I need an exit button. So I believe this is what my application is going to look like. And can I zoom in on this? There we go. Do I want to zoom in again? All right, we can. There we go. So this is an example. This is a wireframe mock-up of what my application is going to look like. Again, you can do this. Pen and paper is just fine. You can do this. I don't know. I guess you can use PowerPoint even if you wanted to do a mock-up, right? As long as you can draw on something. But this is balsamic.cloud. It is a tool that I use when mocking up applications for clients. And, if you mock it up ahead of time, then you can catch any errors before you actually start coding. Because it's definitely easier to change something here, right? If we forgot this, okay, and we handed this to the client and they say, oh, we also need to know the area in square yards, it's easier to add some, items to this box, to this drawing, versus when we actually have an application, it's going to take longer to go back and correct things. So you always want to catch your I guess your errors early on. Okay. I feel like we sort of jumped ahead here because we're working on this planning chart, and then it says draw a sketch. So we actually got this sketch already done, but we need to do the planning chart. So what the heck is a planning chart? If we go up to F2.1, planning, this is what a planning chart looks like. And I'm going to scroll down to figure 2.3 because it shows us what we're looking for is what the user input is, what the application does, and then how it's going to work. All right. And I already wrote up some of this stuff. So we're going to create a planning chart. So I'm going to, in this Word document, insert a table and make it, I think a 2x4 table will do. I'm going to take these first two columns and merge them together, and these second two columns and merge them together. Okay. So it's starting to look kind of like this. And this spot right here, third row, second column, says how. All right. And we're going to fill that bit in. And notice I'm just jumping back and forth. So we have some user provided input and then application provided output or buttons, etc. So user provided, application provided. I'm just going to put that in here. User provided, application provided. All right. This. All right. At the very top is just the title of this thing, planning chart for the, and our planning chart is planning chart for the, we're going to call it the area calculator. All right. I already have some of this written out, so you don't have to watch me type this. And the purpose is to calculate the area of a rectangle. All right. So this is my planning chart. So again, what does the user provide? Identify the items the user must provide. The rectangle's length and width, both measured in feet. So length, width. The items the application must provide. Area in square feet. Area in square yards. Maybe I'll write out feet here. And then button to end application. All right. For some goofy reason, they're always including that, which I guess makes sense, right? You want to make sure that you include that in your application, which you see we do have that exit button there. So by listing this out here, we can use this as a checkbox, a checklist to make sure that we actually have all of these things. All right. So how is the user provided, this over a little bit, the user provided length, how does this work in our application? All right. And it's length, width. Let's correct these things. We do have width, but it's not height. It's length. Get these things up here. Okay. So length and width. So already by using this planning tool, I've taken the original exercise, the original assignment, and this is, what you're receiving from your client, basically. And again, your client could be an external client or an internal client. And by reading this and breaking it apart and then coming up with a planning chart, I already caught one of my errors. Okay, that I had length or width and height, and they want length and width. So the output would be the same, but just the terminology, you want to use the same terminology that your client's using. Okay, so how will you receive the length? Well, user will enter in txt length. What is txt length? That's this box right here. Okay, and I'll just put that in there so you can see that's txt length. How are we going to get the width? Well, similarly, user will enter in txt width. So txt width is this box right here. All right. The application is going to provide the area in square feet. So how is this going to happen is, and I already have this written out, we're going to have this btn calculate underscore click. So this is btn calculate, and we have a click event. We'll calculate and display in LBL area feet. All right, I just need to add some blank lines here because this is a long sentence. We want these things to line up. And then we have two labels. This is going to be LBL area feet. This is LBL area yards. Okay, that's how they are populated. And then how do we end the application? Well, btn exit underscore click will end the application. All right, so just like this figure 2.3, we say what the user provided input is, what the application provided tools are, and how these things work. So the right way to do this is, use these questions to break apart your application, do steps 1 through 4, then come up with your planning chart, and then draw it all out. All right. And remember, when we're designing this application, we're following those design guidelines. All right, which I think we are doing here. Okay, so going back to the exercise, prepare a planning chart. So I did that. And you could take this, again, I did this in Google Docs, so I can download a PDF of it, and then I can submit this PDF with my assignment. Draw a sketch of the interface. So I used Balsamiq to do that. And if you use Balsamiq, you can somehow, I think under project, you can export. Let's see. Yep. So we can say we want to export the current wireframe as a PDF. And there it is. So you can include that with your project. So that was steps 1 and 2. Now create a Windows Forms application, and we're going to call this is our area project. So area project. Use this template that we've been using called area, saving it in the right directory, projects and solutions, same folder. And while that's going, I'm going to take the instructions and my wireframe and everything and drag it to the other screen like I've done before, so I have room to work. Okay, and change the appropriate properties for the form. So let's see if we can get this right here. I'm going to call this thing FRM area. So I have my form checked, Now I can edit the properties for this. We're going to change the font again. Make it 11. Maximize box is false. And start position is center screen. All right, and it says verify the name of the startup form. We're going to call, I always end up opening that app config. Okay, we're going to name this thing area. Verify the startup form. If you double click on my project, we're going to start with FRM area. And let's save this. And just hit F5. Let's just make sure everything's working as expected. Okay, pretty close. This still says form 1, so let's go fix that. If I click on my form and go to properties, I want this to say calculate area. All right, I don't want it to say area. I want to say calculate area. All right, now let's see this thing. Wonderful. We have a box. It opens in the middle of the screen. I can't maximize it, and the title is calculate area. That was 4C. D, use your planning chart as a guide when building the interface. Be sure to follow the GUI design guidelines, and then code the exit button is E. So we're just building this application interface. So I'm going back to my wireframe. All right, this is what I'm going to have open on my other screen because I know my wireframe aligns with my project planning chart. All right, and the project planning chart handled everything that the problem that was presented to us asked for. So let's start doing this. There are at least three ways to add items to a box or form. The easiest one that I like to use is just drag over. Okay, so here's our first label. This is going to be length. Other one, width. These two I am not bothering to rename because we never access them with our code. This is going to be an output. This is going to be area square feet. Copy paste. Area square yard. So it's going to be the output here. I'm going to need some text boxes for the input. So because this is a text box that I would be referencing my code, you have to rename it. TXT length. So copy paste to get that one. TXT width. Again, I have my wireframe on the other screen, so I'm just referring back to that. All right, give me a copy of a label here. This one I am going to name. So this is going to be LBL area feet because my code will be accessing this element. All right, and the label here is output area in feet. Copy paste. This is output area in yards. So I'm going to call this LBL area yards. And let me make sure I'm just looking at this. See how I have LBL area feet and then LBL area yards? I guess you don't have feet. So yards, the plural of a yard is yards, and the plural of, I guess, a foot is feet. All right, I'm just trying to maintain consistency here, but that's fine the way it is. Okay, let's work on some alignment here. So before we add buttons, I'm going to select these 4 elements and align them to the left and set the vertical spacing between them to be equal. And then I want to get this vertical spacing correct here. So I'm lining up, all I'm lining up on, let me move these things out of the way here. All I'm going for here is, wow, I keep double clicking and I don't mean to. If you double click anything, it gives you a sub procedure that handles that thing. All right. You can just ignore it. Just go back to your designer, right? You have a tab that says your file that you're working on, design mode. That's what we're interested in. All right. I'll clean up those other sub procedures later. So this element here that I'm moving around is TXT length. So I want to get this lined up with my length element, and I want to line up on the pink line. That will line up the text in the label and the text in the box. And all I'm concerned about right now is the vertical alignment. Get it lined up on the pink. All right, width, same thing. Let's get that pink aligned. This output, pink aligned. This output, pink aligned. Now I can select these 4 elements and left align them, and then move them to where I think looks appropriate. All right, and we can make it kind of close like that. I don't like that. It's a little too close. Too close for comfort. Let's move it over a little bit. There we go. All right, and then I need a couple of buttons. So let me drag down 2 buttons here. This one is BTN Calculate. Text of this button is going to be Calculate. And notice I put an access key on the C. And this one is going to be Exit, and I put an access key on the X. I make both of these a little bit bigger. Set the, well, I don't want them that wide. There we go. Set the width of them so you can see the whole word calculate. We can take these, we can align the bottoms. All right. That looks fine. I'm going to take everything and just shove it up into the corner a little bit more so that I can take my entire form and drop it down like that. All right, so the only thing I didn't do is I didn't put access keys on length and width. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to think for length, we're going to put the access key on the L. And on width, we're going to put the access key on the W. Make sure you're not overlapping your access key. So we're using LWCX. Okay, nothing's overlapping. Let's look at our tab order. So click on the form, and then you can see View Tab Order. All right, so when I hit my access key on length, it'll put me, it's going to put me down. Look at this. This order's all over the place, right? Because I have these, I put all these labels in first, and then I built these elements. So if I hit the access key on width, we want to be over here. But what it's going to do is it's going to go through the tab index, and it's going to go 2, 3, 4. So when I run this right now, I'm going to hit tab to move my cursor. My focus is on calculate. I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to hit W. Notice where my cursor is now. It's up here. Okay, that's not good. I don't want it to be there. I want it to be right here. The reason for that is because width has a tab index of 1. When you hit that access key, W, it's going to say, put the focus on the next input box. Well, 2's not an input box, 3's not an input box, 4 is. So we need to renumber our tab index. So I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to put these through 9. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just like you were reading a book. All right, and then we can get out of tab order view. Now when I run this, when I hit Alt-W, I'm down here, and Alt-L, I'm up here. Alt-C would be clicking the calculate button, and Alt-X would be hitting the exit button. So let's actually code this exit button. And if you recall, double click on it. This gives you a sub procedure. When somebody clicks on the exit button, we want to take me and close it. All right. So while we're in here, these empty sub procedures, I'm going to highlight them and just delete them. All right, just to make our code a little bit cleaner. So let's run this one more time. All I'm interested in right now is hitting the exit button. That worked. I think the only thing that's bothering me is the vertical alignment on these buttons. So I'm going to take these items here. I'm going to set the vertical spacing to be the same, which means these are slightly off. So let me just make sure these are on. And then take these 4 items, make them left aligned the same. Okay. There. So now the spacing between these boxes, this box and this label, this label, and this label, and these buttons are all the same. All right, there's my application. Run it. I can hit Alt W, I can hit Tab, and I can move through 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can hit Alt X and exit my application. So I think that's it. Let's look at the assignment here. Use our planning chart when designing the interface. Follow the GUI design guidelines. We can review that if we need to. Code the exit button. Save the solution. Start the application. Test the access keys, tab order, exit button. We did all that. And then close the solution. So this is, with this assignment, you're submitting this entire folder that's zipped up. Let me run over to that folder. Okay, so I have this area folder, right? And I'm going to send to compressed zip folder. So this zip file is what you're going to submit. But also don't forget, if you have your planning chart, to save this as a PDF or something and submit this, and your wireframe as well. However you laid out this application, whether you drew it, just take a picture with your phone, or if you use some sort of online tool, create a PDF of it or something like that, and submit that as well. But that is everything for exercise 4 in chapter 2.